All right, so today, guys, we are in a VS Manta. Now, this is a really rare car. It is a version of the HSV VS Club Sport from the late 90s. This particular one is from 1997, and as we can see there, it's got 113,000 kilometers. It is build number 323, and it's a really cool thing. And this particular one has had a lot of stuff done to the motor. It sounds fantastic. It's what you want out of a 5-litre. This is a really cool car. So what we'll do is we'll just go for a drive, sort of 5-10 minutes or whatever, and then I'll just give you a really quick walk around of the car because there will be a proper overview of this car coming. But I just wanted to quickly share it with you guys. Now, one of the things that's really cool about this era of car, it's got this HSV branded little immobilizer, and what you do is you open this and hopefully you can see that, you sort of chuck it in there for a few seconds, and if you don't do that, the car won't start. So that is part of it. Now, one of the best things about these cars is the noise. Oh. So this car, big power windows, and I mean, how good does that sound? All right, so this car is an absolute weapon. Frankly, it makes more than 200 at the wheels and something stupid like 1400 Newton meters of torque at its peak. Now, we're not going to be testing that here. This is not my car, and it's a really rare piece of HSV history. So that's the last thing that we're going to be doing. We're just going to be cruising it along, and I'm just sharing you, but just the sound of this thing. Also, you might even see it's got a level 3 cluster. Don't worry too much about that fuel average because the battery has just, the car's just been disconnected, so won't stress too much about that. It's actually not that bad on fuel from what Alan, who owns this car, says. Something like, I don't know, not that different than a normal 5-litre, which is surprising. It's got a 355 Harrop crank, pistons, rods, all the gear. What else has it got?
It's got the auto, $3,500.
Oh, that's right. It's got a $3,500 high stall, pacemaker extractors, 3-inch exhaust, pretty much everything that you would want out of a clubby, and it's a really cool piece of kit. Like, I love the little touches like the HSV logo there, and if you notice in the speedo there, it actually goes a step higher than the standard VS clubbies. So it goes to 250, than the standard VS Commodore. So it goes to 250 instead of 220. And you know, let's be honest, no V6 Commodore is getting to 220. So that's really cool. And it also has 346 diff gears. So, you know, it actually goes pretty well. But again, that's not something that we're going to be testing in this car. I have a great deal of respect and mechanical sympathy for this because, yeah, it's a piece of Australian history, driving something like this, and I really enjoy it. And I know Alan does because he's had this car for 14 years, and it was painted. It has been painted, so 13 years ago. And as you'll see, it doesn't have the original wheels anymore, but he has kept them. He has retained them, and they are safe. It's definitely a head turner. We've just been parked at the car park, and honestly, every second person was looking at it, and it's just, you don't see them anymore. This particular car is like Botanica Mica, which is really similar to the Cherry Black, except it's got the green flake rather than the purple. Really cool color, and yeah, it's really special. I'm really enjoying driving this, and you know, there is a little bit of wear on the steering wheel. So Alan said the power steering pump at some stage went out, and he just had to force it. It just feels really special, and it's obviously had a lot of time and money and effort spent on it to get it to where it is about. And I don't know, I just love sharing that excitement. And when Alan was talking to me about this car, it is clear that he loves it, and he's made it very clear that it will be staying with him forever. And I don't blame him, because it's a real privilege to drive it. It's also got its original headlining, which I can't show you obviously because the camera's attached to my head, but original headlining, it's all its original center console. And one thing that's really cool about the center console is it doesn't move. If you guys have ever been in any VN or VS Commodores, they always are crap, and they always crack at the bottom where the bolts go through to the floor, and it always moves every time you go and rest your arm on it. This is probably the first car that I've ever been in that doesn't have that issue at all. It's also the first one where all 3 of the screens work, which is another thing that's bizarre for one of these cars. And so the Manta is actually a variation of the VS Clubby. So you could get this, the VS Clubby, the GDS, GDSR, all of those back in the late 90s. And the big difference with the Manta is it's got its own exterior lift kit. It's got a different grille. It's got its own unique interior, you know, its own unique wheels. It's just a different flavor of the VS Clubby. And yeah, and for some reason they only did it on VS, and this particular one is a Series 2, obviously automatic. It's quite a rare one, and it's at the end of the life. It's build number 323, and they only did this at the start of the VTs as well with the 5 litres. So once they moved over to the LS1s, that was it. There was no more Mantas. So I'm not sure, and even me and Alan were talking about why the Mantas were really even a thing. But I'm glad they did it, because it made this cool little flavour of VS Club Sport that would otherwise not have existed. All right, we've just pulled up, and I just thought that I would show you what the outside of this thing looks like. I mean, look at it. It is absolutely spotless, this thing. I love the colour of it. It kind of looks black, but I promise you, in person, it is green. As you can see, it's got its own Manta badging. This particular one weighs way more than 215, so it's got its VRVS like lip kit, all the Manta badging, and its own grille, and it's just... So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this these kind of videos. There's going to be a lot more of this kind of stuff coming, I hope, and lots of older cars, HSVs, yeah, pretty much everything. It's just a really, really cool experience to drive this, and I'm really glad that so many people are following me along. So if you guys like this kind of stuff, follow along, and thanks for watching. I actually forgot to show you guys the engine bay, and how could I forget that? This thing is really, really cool. If you guys follow my content or anything, you know that I love original stuff, and despite this motor having so much money in it, it looks standard, and that is really big points for me, because I love the factory intake and the airbox, and it has ABS and cruise control. Like, it's a really good cruiser, this thing, and I think it looks fantastic.